所以今天那个下午的场次哈，是我们凌云六的开始。我们凌云六是 photo 的 photo chemistry， 那这几年我们凌云六要 focus on 的会是human centric lighting， 以人为本需求的一些照明。那这样的一个照明，其实在近代它会是一个蛮热门的。基本上在 CIE 总会那边，我自己看到的一个现象，就是过去2、3年，其他的主题当然都很热门，可是，在 healthful lighting、human centric lighting 的 forum 或 session 在讨论的时候，我看到椅子够坐的状态。我看到会场有人站在外面写状，所以这是事实。今天我们这个论坛想要带给各位，国外真的很关心这个议题，如何利用照光，去对人的健康、对人的甚至于到医疗的可能性，我们都希望能够有一些设计。而这个健康跟医疗，已经不是在医院所采用，而是要带到家家户，所以这个市场非常大，非常大。今天下午我带的我们这个Division 6要带的这2个主题，the first one speaker is very welcome to Professor Jonathan. He's from Yunzi University, and he's served for the Department of Electromechanics. So he stayed in Taiwan at least 50 years, so he can understand the Chinese. And but today's his talk is in English, so I think that most of you and my students understand his talk. Okay, so this topic is discussed about the implementation of dynamic lighting to aid our sleep patterns of persons living with dementia. And our second talk, we invited President Wang, CEO Wang. He will introduce also the sleep aid lighting system by using a mobile phone. Okay, I think these two topics were very interesting. So, okay, now let's start our session.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so as we've introduced, we're talking about implementation of this dynamic lighting, in other words, changing lighting to aid sleeping for people who have dementia. That would be like Alzheimer's disease or other related dementias. That is our target. Now, I want to talk a little bit about motivation for this research. This is a picture of my mother when she was younger. Her name is Marjorie. She grew up on a farm and worked on the farm. So during the daytime, she would be working outside. She loved the outside. She hated being inside. So she was always outside in the fields, working, and walking through the forest when she had free time. She worked hard in the daytime under the natural light. And when she came home at night, she would sleep and slept very well, always from about 9 p.m. to about 5 in the morning when she would get up and start working again. This was her life. This was her life as she lived in a small village in Canada. Her life took a dramatic change when she was 83 years old. At 83 years old, she entered into a stroke-induced dementia. Okay? So her memory disappeared. She could not remember anything. This caused serious problems. She liked to live by herself in the countryside. But she could no longer remember how to get home again when she was walking out to the village to pick up her food and then walk back. She used to walk 15 kilometers a day, back and forth to the village buy the food that she needed for the day, and walk back home again. As a result, she decided to enter a long-term care facility in which she had a small apartment and would eat together with other older people. What started to happen? Pretty soon she started to nap more in the daytime, and her sleep became much more irregular at night. She would get up in the middle of the night, walk around. Sometimes when we would bring her to our house, she would suddenly get up at 3 a.m. in the morning and walk out the front door. One time in the middle of winter, when we had brought her home, when I went back for Chinese New Year, we would bring her back to our house. Fortunately, a neighbor found her at 3 a.m. and brought her back home again. We asked her why, and she said, I needed to go to the bathroom and I was looking for the village toilet. Well, the village toilet has not existed for 60 years. People have indoor plumbing now. But she was at that situation. Back at the long-term care facility, when she returned, she would then lose her day and night, as I told you. But I noticed that when I brought her back home, after a few weeks going out in the daytime and coming back at night, her clock, her circadian rhythm, had switched back to normal. She did not need without drugs or anything. She was sleeping all night and awake all daytime. But after going back to the long-term care facility, it would be back to the normal thing, getting up at the night, sleeping and napping during the daytime. What? So I start to think, what is wrong? Why is this happening? I try to think it must be because of lighting. That was my own thinking. It must have to do with lighting. Must be some reason. Okay, now this sleeping is not just a problem for my mother. This is a huge problem with dementia in the world, in particular Taiwan, because of its rapidly aging population. And within that, dementia currently affects 10% of Taiwanese over 65 years. This number has doubled in the last 10 years. That was in 2008, and it's basically doubled again since when Fu did his research back then. So, as a male, I am fortunate that I am a male. I have an 11% chance of having dementia and having this problem. If I was a female, I would have a 21% chance. So this disease is not equal, has no sexual equality for this disease. Okay, now, of those with dementia, 44% are suffering from sleeping disorder. In other words, will wake up 10 times in the night, get out of bed about 10 times in the night, wander around in the house about 10, on average 10 times during the evening when they should be sleeping. This switching of day and night, what does it do? It basically impacts families very severely. You can imagine if you have hired a caregiver to help look after your father or mother during the daytime, they go home at night. You come back from work and you have a father or a mother getting up 10 times every hour, and you will be on much edge. This in Taiwan results in caregiver burnout and is the #1 reason why an elderly person is put into long-term care facility in the USA and I believe Taiwan also. This is the #1 reason. is because of this sleep disorders. Okay, so clearly this is a high emotional and financial cost to both the patient. Obviously, it's very hard on the patient. It's very hard on the patient's family. And it's also a serious issue for the society. There's an estimation for the USA, it's going to cost $1 trillion a year within 10 years for the USA. Will have to bear this sort of expense to try to deal